the Intentional Woman. My mission is to inspire individuals to live with grace, purpose, and intentionality. And I believe intent with focused work brings manifestation. Today begins something that has been on my heart for quite some time. I'm calling this part of the series Coffee Conversation with an Intentional Woman. These conversations are about celebrating women whose lives inspire us. And because they're perfect, it's not because they're perfect, but because they continue growing, serving, and trusting God through every season. Today's guest is someone very special to me. Najee and I met years ago while serving together as praise dancers at church. It makes me feel emotional. I've had the privilege of watching her grow from a young woman into the person she is today. Today she is pursuing her doctorate, serving at Xavier University of New Orleans, and continuing to inspire everyone she knows. Najee, welcome to the Living with Intent broadcast.
Sounds so good.
Before we talk about everything you're accomplishing today, tell us a little about the woman behind the titles. Who is Najee?
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for having me. I would say the woman behind the title is a woman who is intentional, a woman who desires to live life with purpose, with style, and class. I always like to think about myself as a liaison, as a person that, like an ongoing liaison, someone that's always bridging the gap between people, which makes a lot of sense because the work that I'm doing now, whether it's at Xavier or even in my doctoral studies, is centered around bridging the gap between people. So absolutely love what I do. I'm very intentional in everything that I do. Of course, success is motivation. However, when you have a heart for people, it makes doing it easy. And so it makes you want to be much more intentional in every aspect of your life and pouring into myself and allowing that the things that overflows to pour into others.
I love that. I love that. I love that for you. I've watched you grow over the years. When you think about your 20s compared to your now 30-ish, how has God shaped you into the woman you've become right now?
I would say because, so in my 20s, I would say was the season where I had an opportunity to be a student of life. And so when I say a student of life, it's where you make mistakes, you fall, you see what it feels like to hurt, you see what it feels like to receive guidance and be rebellious. Not to say that I believe that I am a person that's rebellious, but of course you have your parents, you have your family, you have your friends, and you have people around you telling you don't do this, don't do that. But of course, you're close, you think you're grown. You think you're grown, but you think you everything. And so it's where you typically fall and hit your head. So I would say my 20s was about being a student of life. In my 30s, it's like, I'm not saying I got it all together, but I'm moving with caution. So when things arise, like, oh wait, I seen that before, so I'm not going to do that. I seen that before, I'm not going to do that. And so you are much more aware different things in life, it's kind of like in your 20s, you think everything is just going to be average. You know, the relationship, the friendships, you think everything is just going to be perfect. And, you know, I'm a graduate, we get the big job, you have my friend, we're going to be friends forever. You have the boyfriend, we're going to be together forever. But life tells you that some things in your life are just seasonal, and some things are meant to be for a lifetime. And so now in my 30s, not to say that I don't welcome relationships and friendships and those different aspects of my life, but now I'm much more aware of the things that God intended for my life versus things that I thought that I needed.
I love that for you. Thank you so much for sharing. You're currently pursuing your doctorate, right? That requires discipline, sacrifice, and perseverance. What keeps you motivated on the difficulties? And I'm sure there are some difficulties, right?
Certainly. So I would say the thing that keeps me motivated is understanding the people that you get to impact in the process of pursuing. Because what happens is, although when you're on this journey, you're just thinking about yourself. It's like, okay, I want to, reach a certain peak in life. I want to live a certain kind of lifestyle. But then when you really hone in on it a little bit deeper, you realize there are many people that see you as influence, right? And so whether it's my nieces, my nephews, my mentees, my students, those are the ones that come to me saying, my siblings, they're going to give me shit. So my siblings, everybody, and so them coming to me saying, you know what, because of you, I did this. And so it raises a level of accountability to make you realize that what you do, although it's about you, it's bigger than you. And so even when you think about the word, it's like everything we do is meant to be to you. Everything
It's
is
so
meant to be.
true.
Yeah.
So one of the themes of this season is restoration, right? When you hear that word, what does restoration mean to you personally? Have you experienced God's restoring hand in your own life?
Yes. So I would say restoration means to me, I want to say it well.
Okay.
I want to say it well. So making sure that you're only filling yourself up with the things that God intended. Because sometimes we can, detour from the things of God, which causes sometimes to being left feeling empty. And so understand, like once you realize it, once you become aware, self-aware of these things, you realize that only with the help of God and with His Word and the things that He has set out for us is the only thing can fill us up to reach the levels that we can.
So you have experienced God's restoring hand in your own life. You see that. Okay, so many women watching today are balancing careers, family responsibilities, education, and ministry. Right? How do you remain intentional while managing so many responsibilities?
I would say remembering your why.
Yes.
Remembering your why we're here, right? In every aspect of your life, if you let me say this. At the core of your being, you have morals and values that govern you, that tells you how to show up in the world. And so when you understand that, the way that you show up in every aspect of your life is based upon those morals and values. And so, which ultimately leads back to your why. Why do we operate the way that we do? Why do we show up in the world the way that we do? So I would say remembering your why.
And so that motivates you to move forward, right? Okay. So I have another question. You've experienced unique family dynamics and have continued to thrive. Okay? How has your family journey helped shape your perspective on grace, love, and resilience?
Okay. Give me the first part first.
How? Okay, here you go. You have experienced unique family dynamics. Remember, I know you.
Yes.
And have continued to thrive.
Okay.
How has your family journey helped shape your perspective on grace, love, and resilience?
Okay. So I would say, so I have a very unique family dynamic, a family journey. Let me see. So should I go into it?
Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah,
I want you to.
Okay, so when I was 4 months, I came to New Orleans. I was born in Las Vegas, and I came to New Orleans to live with my aunt, who I identified as my mom. Her and, well, at the time it was just her boyfriend, but they ended up getting married within those 2 years and whatnot. And they took me, pretty much raised me as their daughter. Right, I was their only kid. My biological parents, they took a different path. I would say that. And so, which led me to coming to New Orleans. So I had been living in New Orleans for quite some time. I've never lived with my biological parents. We didn't always have healthy relationship, rather. And I would say we didn't always have a healthy relationship, but maturity helped me to understand that sometimes your parents are only able to give you what they have, and not to say that that makes them any less, or less than, or anything, right? But what I understood was, what I started to become more accepting of, is that if God's intention was to use them as the vehicle to get to this side of heaven, right? So they did something great. And so instead of seeing the experiences that I may have had with them, realizing that God chose them to bring me here. So even just to see me. Now I'm not saying that it's always pretty. I'm not saying it. But what I will say is I had to change my perspective of who they were and how I identify them in my life, right? And to see them in a different aspect, which also helped me to do life differently. It helped me to be more resilient, because I could have been a person to say, you know what, I don't want to do this. Like, they didn't want me. I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing that. I'm never doing this. But I understood that my life had much more purpose just to be here. It is amazing, right? And so thank you. Yeah, it's something that also what I'm grateful for is that at every phase of life, God always appointed life in my life. So whether I was in middle school, high school, dance school, getting into the workforce, all the things, I always had a point of life. And so at every point, God positioned somebody to propel me forward. And so that was amazing, because you were part of that journey. So yeah, so that was amazing. So, but understanding that sometimes as family, your family won't always understand the journey, because they're your family. Sometimes they only see you the way they last experienced you. So if they experience you as a kid, to your mom and dad, you're always going to be their baby.
Yes.
So sometimes they struggle with seeing you evolve and doing these different things. While my parents, I would say, is actually my aunt and my uncle, but I identify them as my parents, my mom and dad. They have been 100% supportive of every aspect of my life. So I'm very grateful for them. But they still have some times where they like, listen, this is my child,
right.
But they respect the journey. So I appreciate that.
Okay, so I have this other question. If you could sit across from 20-year-old Najee, what advice would you give her?
I would say, one, extend yourself some grace because sometimes we believe that unintentionally, I think society puts this pressure on us that we're only celebrated based upon how we perform.
Right.
And so I would say, but that's society, right? But then, in all honesty, who's telling you that you have to perform like this? The word don't say that. You know, nobody tells you that you have to live like, you know, perfection, all these different things. It's like, extend grace to yourself to make mistakes. Also, be patient with yourself. I think sometimes, well, I'm saying, be patient with all things. I remember years ago, Pastor Frank told us, he said, yeah, you're praying for patience. You know what you're asking for, because guess what God will test you with patience, test your patience. And so, even in some areas of my life, sometimes when they're not moving as quickly as I would like them to, I typically run. But in this season of my life, right now, 33, I'm like, you know what, God, increase my capacity to stay the course. You know, and so I'm being a little bit more patient with that. So I would tell myself, extend yourself some grace and be patient with the process.
Okay, here we go.
Okay?
This is the question I'll ask everyone who joins me. So Najee and Intentional Wonam. What encouragement would you give another woman who is trying to live the life God has called her to live?
I would say, it's crazy because I use intentional a lot, y'all. Y'all might think I'm just saying this, but I use intentional a lot. But be intentional about you and who God has called you to be. Understand that we all get 24 hours. And so you know, every day we get 24 hours to do it all over. And God give us that grace to show up differently. So maybe one day, yesterday, you may not have felt your best, you know, but the next 24 hours you have an opportunity to choose to show up differently. Choose to take advantage of those hours and those days and things like that. You don't get it back, but you do get an opportunity to try it again. And so I would say be intentional about you, the journey, and understand that God gives us chances with you every day. When He wakes you up and your feet hit the floor, understand that guess what? You have the ability to decide and to choose how you want to do it.
Thank you so much, Najee. You have truly been amazing. Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Thank you for reminding us that intentional living isn't about perfection. It's about faithfully saying yes to God's will, one way at a time. To everyone watching, I hope today's conversation encouraged you. Remember, every woman has a story. Every story has a purpose. And every chapter is an opportunity for God to do something beautiful. If you've enjoyed today's coffee conversation, please like, subscribe, and share the broadcast with another woman who needs encouragement. I am Ynez Bevins, the Intentional Woman. I aspire to inspire individuals to mature with grace and intentionality. And I live by these words. Intent with focused work brings manifestation. Take care.